As a child growing up visiting my nonna nonnal's house, my cousins and I would regularly go into the backyard and climb the lemon tree. "Don't climb the tree," my grandparents would say in either broken English or Italian, regularly scolding us that we were going to completely ruin the year's batch of lemons. It was terrifying. Not only because my grandparents were very angry at me, but also because I thought that I could fall and break something at any moment. So I would carefully scurry back down the tree, walk into the house sulking, and the next time I visited, I would do the exact same thing again. Climbing things as a child was one of those primal urges you had. You know, one of those things you just had to do even if you were told not to. Kind of like touching wet paint. For kids, it may seem like just part of their nature, but it's something that even for adults that they take into their grown life. You see, I'm sure each and every one of you has had a coworker respond to the question, "What did you get up to on the weekend?" with, "I went bouldering." I had one such coworker, and wanting to understand why they did it, I asked them, and they responded with the obvious answer. They loved the adrenaline of it. But the more they spoke, the more intriguing it became. You see, they compared climbing to mathematics. Before I go any further, I must put a disclaimer. I am not a climber. That short lemon tree in my grandparents' backyard may have been the tallest thing I've ever climbed in my life. And yet, approaching it like a mathematics problem makes sense. You see, a cliff face, a recreational rock climbing wall, they each have dozens, even possibly hundreds of routes to the top, and it is our job to calculate which one is most efficient. And yet for something that's a major part of most kids' childhoods, something that people take into their adult lives, climbing in video games is always kind of, well... When I think of climbing, I think of one hand above the other, picking your footholds and handholds extremely carefully. I think about that lemon tree in my grandparents' backyard and the thought that falling would be absolutely catastrophic, even though I was only about 1 meter off the ground. While deep diving into this topic, I discovered Alex Honnold, perhaps the most famous climber living today. He is personified by the way he does his climbing, free soloing. That means that he doesn't use a rope, doesn't use an anchor, and doesn't use a tether. There is nothing there to protect him if he falls. Alex's most famous feat to date is a solo of El Capitan, a 2,300 meter sheer monolith in the Yosemite National Park. This feat was covered by National Geographic in the very aptly titled documentary Free Solo. Throughout the documentary, you can see Alex regularly practicing his climbs and practicing his lines. At one point, he goes through one of his pitches, aptly named the boulder problem. The way he breaks it down is downright analytical. He can pick out thumb width and toe width placements precisely, breaking down how each of them is essential to the climb. When Alex eventually faces the boulder problem in the real climb, he pulls it off absolutely flawlessly. Even with all this practice, there is an innate sense of danger from everyone but Alex when he's attempting it. The cameraman filming, they can barely watch their own footage. Hell, I know he gets through it, and I know he's alive and well, and yet even I could barely watch, my heart in my throat the entire time. The danger is baked into what Alex is doing with the climbing. The free soloing, that just takes it over the edge. This is obviously the most extreme version of climbing, sure, but even that danger, any danger coming from climbing, that has long failed to translate into video games. Climbing in general media, of course, is well documented and popularized. For me, there is no better example of this than the intro to Mission Impossible 2, an iconic piece of media, personified exactly by that climbing sequence at the start. In this, Ethan Hunt, played by resident action hero / psychopath Tom Cruise, is free soloing a spire in some part of the US, and in it, Hunt is doing completely bonkers stuff. At one point, he loses his grip and slides down the cliff face before desperately latching onto a lip. And then for some reason, he just decides to start hanging with one hand. It's completely impractical, but damn did it look cool. It helps toe the line between completely batshit insane and just realistic enough for me and everyone, the moviegoers, to watch this scene and think, wow, it is absolutely crazy that climbers are doing that. Video games, sadly, do not suspend that disbelief enough. One thing climbing in video games has long been overlooked, and I can, and will, point to some notable examples of this. It is important for me to establish a baseline of what I'm looking for when I'm thinking of climbing. The example I'm thinking of is one of the formative video game memories I have. It is something that when I was a kid, it took my breath away. It comes from a long-running and storied franchise, one that is one of the highest grossing of all time. It comes from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. The good one. The campaign of Modern Warfare 2 contains many memorable moments for then 11-year-old me, but in the context of this topic, the one that absolutely sticks with me is the mission Cliffhanger, the third mission in the game where the player is tasked with stealthily infiltrating a Russian military base deep in the mountains of Kazakhstan. You open Cliffhanger on the side of a mountain, looking at Soap adorned in climbing gear, ripping a cigar as jets fly over. After a slow shimmy along a ledge, Soap sets off, using ice picks to scale the icy cliff face. You then follow him, one trigger for each hand, planting each pick into the ice individually and feeling it set itself. For young me, this experience was exhilarating. You continue to climb up one pick at a time, seeing the ice continue to crack around the insertion point, a constant reminder that the longer you hold it, the more likely it is to displace. MiG jets fly over, almost displacing Soap and sending him tumbling, putting you even more on edge than you already were. You reach the top of the first section and see Soap lining up a jump across a foggy expanse with the promise of something on the other side to catch him.
I'll see you on the far side,
he says, and away he goes into the fog. Then 11-year-old me had to build the courage to follow. I took a few steps back for a run-up, even though I didn't need to, but it just felt instinctual, it felt right, and I sprinted to jump across. The pick falters, the placement not quite there, and you begin sliding down, helpless for what comes next. If not for Soap doing COD action hero stuff, diving down to catch you, it'd be game over. You then scale the cliff face and pull your gun out for the first time, heart beating a million miles a minute. The entire climbing section only takes around 2 minutes tops. Between that mission in 2009 and 2023, my memory of climbing in video games is essentially void. You see, for a long time, climbing in games has just kind of sucked. It is often included as a core mechanic, one of the main ways you get around the world or go and find secrets, and yet the climbing itself, it feels completely tacked in as either a pacing mechanism or a mundane obstacle for the player to overcome. These games, they feature climbing as a core mechanic, and yet there is no character to them. There's no tactileness or difficulty. They are more of a mild annoyance than anything. To a degree, I blame PlayStation for this trivialization. You see, I've played Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, marveling at the scope and scale of the derelict world overrun by machines, raiding old world technology, and sliding underneath robot dinosaurs as they flash their metallic teeth at me. I've played God of War and God of War Ragnarok, the reboot of the Blood of franchise, and was taken with the story of Kratos and Atreus, the more focused combat, and being able to explore Santa Monica Studios' unique depiction of Norse mythological locations that I hadn't seen outside of a Marvel movie. Please don't judge me. I've played Ghost of Tsushima and Yote, feeling the struggle that gripped Jin Sakai as he fought between the honor of the samurai and the usefulness of the ghost, as well as Atsu's quest for revenge for those who wronged her as a child. I believe every game that I mention ranges from good to fantastic, and yet for each and every one of those games I can level the exact same criticism. The climbing really sucks. All of these PlayStation published titles feature climbing as either a core mechanic or one of the main ways you traverse the world. In all instances, the paths in these games is very clearly outlined, be it the painted ledges in the God of War games, the white outcrop rocks in the Ghost games, or the yellow architecture in the Horizon games. It is clear there is no need to plot an optimal route up these cliff faces, rock faces, and skyscrapers. For example, in Horizon Zero Dawn, you receive a pivotal main quest called Maker's End, where you are tasked with trekking towards a location of the same name, a giant skyscraper rising through the clouds, the former seat of power of the company responsible for the state of the world in the game. As part of this quest, you need to reach the pinnacle of this building, offering up a chance to be at the highest point possible in the game. You know how you do that? Well, first there is a cave you need to squeeze through that takes you into an underground facility, which then turns into the skyscraper itself, conveniently littered with yellow holes that you simply guide your analog stick from one to the other to navigate. And how long does it take to climb this skyscraper in the clouds? About 6 minutes. Or how about in Ghost of Yote, which features numerous shrines where you maneuver through various obstacles. To call the climbing during these activities trivial would be an insult to the word. Climbing is horrendously one note with no difficulty whatsoever. One of these shrines is on the titular Mount Yote itself. Where to scale this 1900 meter tall mountain, you go to a cave once again, which then has a fade to black, teleports you more than 3/4 up the mountain, and then has you complete a brisk, once again, 6-minute obstacle course of mundane climbing to reach the top. Or how about in God of War Ragnarok? One of the defining moments of the game is Atreus scaling Hrimthir's wall, the legendary wall that in myth the gods tasked a giant to build to protect the city. This is meant to be a tense affair, taking around 15 minutes including combat, but throughout almost the entire experience, Atreus is seemingly not exhausted or finding any of it challenging. In fact, he is frequently self-monologuing throughout until around the last 2 minutes, when he starts to self-monologue about how hard it is. This apparent physical exertion is never evident, the animations are entirely consistent, and Atreus simply moves like a climbing machine. And for the player, we're simply shifting our analog stick to the next conveniently placed rock outcrop. At the end of the climb, after being pulled up by the Aesir stranger, Atreus wobbles for a few seconds before straightening right back up and walking off as if that climb never even happened, the game not acknowledging the seemingly epic feat whatsoever. For comparison, at the end of Alex's monumental climb of El Capitan, there is a peelback shot where Alex shrinks as a scale of what he has just summited is revealed. This moment doesn't exist for Atreus' climb, and quite frankly would have sunk like a rock in the ocean if it did. There is only ever one path up in these games, and yes, I understand why. I understand the need. These games, they're not about climbing, they're about spreading your dead wife's ashes, or resisting a Mongol invasion, or discovering the mystery of your birth. Why let climbing get in the way of that? Well, exactly. Why let climbing get in the way of that? Why not just remove it altogether? Why not put some ladders in, or some ledges you can easily mantle? Why make things scalable if the act of scaling them is merely a distraction from the game? Why provide climbing when you clearly don't care about it, you only care about the destination? Literally all of these games feature free soloing, the method I watched Alex Honnold methodically plan over a year to complete his climb of El Capitan. A climb that the first time he attempted it, he bailed because it felt too dangerous and he didn't want to attempt it. And yet, free soloing is nothing for our mighty heroes. It is something they can easily glide through with no challenge whatsoever, as if they were the greatest climbers to grace the land. Climbing was added as an afterthought for these titles, and was a throwaway inclusion for a lot of games over the last 10, 15, even 20 years. But this isn't about the death of climbing in games. No, not at all. This is about the renaissance of climbing in games. So let's start with Jusant, shall we? Released in 2023 by Don't Nod, Jusant's premise is immediately apparent and astoundingly simple. While there is an underlying story about how all water has disappeared from the planet and your character is on a journey to find it, as a player your purpose is clear from the beginning. You need to scale that mountain. From a gameplay perspective, Jusant provides an antithesis to the PlayStation climbing I spoke about earlier. Despite its general linearity, Jusant still provides multiple options, multiple different handholds and obstacles for reaching your destination. In Jusant, you control both of the climber's hands, needing to strategically position your body so you can reach your hold with the correct arm. Jusant also possesses a stamina system. You can't climb eternally, stay in one place forever. You need to rest occasionally and have plotted and calculated your line, done the math to reach the top. The more you climb, the more challenges present themselves. Soon, you have the weather conditions to tackle. At one point, the sun is beating down on you, sapping your stamina faster, and affecting some of the holes you use. Then next, extreme winds blow in all directions, rapidly shifting between assisting you or trying to blow you away. Throughout your journey, you're accompanied by the ethereal sounds crafted by, and apologies in advance of butchering this, Guillaume Ferrand, one of my most listened to video game soundtracks of all time, setting the tone as a calming self-exploration rather than a life or death climb. But even in this beautiful music, you can feel the peaks and troughs, moments where the music is designed in conjunction with your ascension, while also translating the tension of what might happen if you fall. Jusant pairs the essence of climbing with a calm, meditative ascension. On the other hand, Peak absolutely does not. I'll see you later. You got this. Ah! Do it! Ah! Turn around! Someone! Oh my god! No! Oh my god! Developed by Landfall and Aggro Crab, Peak is extremely simplistic in its nature. Aptly titled, all you need to do is reach the peak of the mountain. While on the surface, Peak might come across as more friend slop, Characterized by its brilliant use of proximity chat and hijinks with others, there is surprisingly a bit of depth to the experience. Climbing in Peak, even when the tension is cut through with the laughter of friends, is a truly tense affair. Even more so than Jusant, Peak offers complete freedom in how you tackle its challenges. You simply crash land on an island and are given no direction besides the obvious one: go climb that mountain. There are no handholds on display, no outlines that indicate a best route. Your best option, as in real life, is to survey from below and plot out your route early. This is much more apparent when playing the game solo, when Peak no longer becomes a raucous time with friends, but a perilous journey where every hand extended could mean a crushing fall. With friends, you have others to lift you up as you near the top of certain climbs, something not possible on your own, another element of danger added. Peak also relies on the elements, another aspect of climbing from the real world, with downpours making the rocks slippery and harder to grip, icy winds instilling cold that saps your energy and health. You have to manage your stamina every step of the way as well, and in instances where you have overcommitted to a climb and you know your stamina will run out, it is often too late to course correct and the abyss awaits you below. Jusant and Peak, they are flawed examples in a sense. They are, after all, climbing games. The core and, in most cases, only mechanic is that of climbing. Of course, it should be expected that it is better in these games than in PlayStation's flagship titles. But PlayStation themselves are capable of delivering these tense, emotional journeys. They were able to do it just last year in one of my standout video game moments from 2025. It came from Death Stranding 2. Now, technically, I would classify talking about Death Stranding 2 as cheating, really. You see, by my own definition, climbing features both your hands and your feet. And in Death Stranding 2, you don't really use your hands all that much, more so to balance than anything. It is your legs that are powering you forward. But in terms of the struggle, the mathematical equation of climbing, well, Death Stranding 2 absolutely embodies that. There's one particular area in Death Stranding 2 where all the aspects of climbing that I've mentioned are present. The terrain becomes tougher, the weather becomes harsher. Within the map of the game, there is a giant mountain range that is constantly shadowing your journey. And throughout my playthrough, these mountains were absolutely tantalizing. I was begging, pleading that I would eventually be invited to scale these, ready to embrace the challenge of what the snow held for me. That was until the game asked me to go there. It becomes immediately apparent that from a traversal perspective, this is the hardest challenge you will face. You reach the snow and are disconnected from the chiral network, the message that it's time for your ascent. The game strips you of all the easy ways of transport you have become accustomed to. With cars and motorbikes having no generators to sustain them, their battery is liable to run out, or the weather will destroy them entirely. There are no zip lines and no coffin boards to use, and no other structures left by other players to rely on. There's just you, your delivery, and the mountain. This is when Death Stranding 2, and mind the pun, is at its peak. Again, you need to calculate your route before trekking to your destination, because if you don't, the mountains will not be kind to you. The snow slows you down every step of the way, sapping your stamina all the while the falling flakes deplete your gear's durability. All of a sudden, your leg gear either runs out of battery or breaks entirely. Then a sudden blizzard hits, and you can no longer see 5 meters in front of you, with no choice left but to huddle up in a corner, get into a bivouac, and pray for your stamina to regenerate and the storm to pass. You climb and climb until eventually you rise over the final crest before staring at your destination and are greeted by a moon about 10 times bigger in the sky than it should be, but all the more beautiful for it. This is one of the standout video game moments for me, if not the standout moment. It was made all the better by the climb it took to get there. Without that climb up, the blizzard sapping you of your strength and your vision, oxygen depleting to the point Sam can no longer breathe, that giant moon would have been just another cool moment, like being able to scale the Home Theater's wall, or being able to scale that skyscraper in Horizon. Instead, it is seminal, eternal, and immortalized, all because of the climb it took to get there. Once I connected that terminal at the top of the mountain, the giant moon would shrink back to its normal size. For I would never scale these mountains the same way, and Death Stranding 2, it would not reward me as such. There's one last game I wanted to talk about, almost the entire reason that this video exists. It is a game that isn't even out yet. Pause, the game is out now. I have played it. I filmed this before that happened. Continue. And yet, the demo left such a mark on me that it is immediately one of my most anticipated video game releases for this year. I could wax lyrical about the non-climbing parts of Cairn eternally. The beautiful hand-painted skyboxes and backgrounds, that you can go fishing, or the fact that mountain goats can attack you. This is about the climbing, and boy does Cairn deliver. Cairn's intro screen tells you everything you need to know about what you're doing and your objective straight away. Just like in Jusant, another giant mountain, this time snow-capped, towering in the background waiting for you to challenge it. Jumping into gameplay, and one thing you'll immediately notice is the level of complexity in Cairn is 10 times that of Jusant and Peak. There's no fucking around here. This is the Dark Souls of climbing games, fit with bonfires and all. In Cairn, you move slowly and methodically. You are not meant to rush this. You're meant to think carefully and plan ahead. The game explicitly tells you to plan before you climb, giving you the opportunity to survey the entire cliff face before tackling it. The climbing itself, that takes place limb by limb, with every movement an arm or leg at a time. The climbing in Cairn is intense in a way I've not experienced since that Modern Warfare 2 mission. One small misstep and you can see your limbs trembling, needing to be readjusted instantly or you will come crashing down. There are no directions, the game not providing any inkling of how to tackle a section. Well, unless you get high licking a frog or taking some shrooms, I guess.
This shroom is taking me on a journey.
With no obvious outlines, you need to personally judge the surface, picking what you think is a natural place to rest your feet and your hands, or risk getting stuck with nowhere to go, or simply tumbling down. You also have to manage your stamina, hunger, and thirst every step of the journey. The backpack you carry full of food and water and other supplies to sustain you. You can even chalk your hands for extra grip, and need to occasionally retape your bloodied fingers for the same purpose. Once you reach the top of the tutorial section, you fade to a cutscene where the true test is revealed, the mountain shown in the intro screen, so far off in the distance that this little section you climb seems immediately insulting to its grandeur. Throughout my experience so far, I've been hit with the elements, rain making the surfaces slippery, fog hindering my vision, and the cold weakening my body. Near the summit, snow and ice are waiting for me, with ice picks to scale the cliff faces, just like Modern Warfare 2 all those years ago. Throughout your entire journey, you can see your route up the mountain, tracking from all the way at the beginning, displaying all the trials and tribulations you've overcome to this point. The game also comes with a free solo mode, absolutely in large part inspired by Alex Honnold's exploits. This one is for the real sickos, a mode where you have no batons to rely on, a smaller backpack, and any fall that is lethal results in a game over. Even the act of selecting the difficulty in the menu is enough to send shivers down your spine. The level of complexity offered is unmatched by anything else available today, and it is quite frankly the best climbing I've ever experienced in a video game. And I compare PlayStation games to this is slightly disingenuous, sure, but imagine if any of those PlayStation titles borrowed any one of the features Cairn had. I mean, Cairn has cooking to provide not only food for your hunger meter, but also to provide buffs, just like you can cook in Ghost of Yotei. Imagine if when Axu was completing those shrine climbs, her limbs started trembling when she reached a difficult section. What about if Aloy had a bag of chalk she would occasionally use to enhance her grip climbing a skyscraper? What about if they automatically placed batons while they climbed, or they had to occasionally rest as they climbed? Any one of these additions would have made the climbing feel more immersive, more tense, and not as a simple afterthought as they do now. I understand the impracticality of implementing this style in a big AAA blockbuster game. Everyone would hate it. But is it wrong of us to want a bit more effort out of the climbing in these games? Is it wrong of us to scale a skyscraper, or Humthier's Wall, or Mount Yotei, and want to be challenged by it the same way that we're challenged by the combat? Is it wrong of us to look at a developer and question why a core aspect of their games is so underbaked in comparison to the rest of the package? I come back to the lemon tree in my grandparents' backyard, a tree that I am now about as tall as. How could something so short have represented such a challenge to me when I was younger? Maybe it was the absence of paint markings, of white outcropped rocks, of bright yellow architecture. Maybe it was because there was more than one path up. Maybe it was because it was realistic. In a world where video games are always trying to be as immersive as possible, wanting you to feel like a god, wanting you to feel like a samurai and shinobi, wanting you to feel like a badass bow-wielding lady. Maybe all we want to feel like is a small kid scaling a very small lemon tree in their grandparents' backyard.